Welcome to Oddball History, dipshits.
A boom, 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 boom.
How?
We're more excited about it this time because we got a good episode for you about Ferdinand Waldo Demara, the great imposter.
Fred Demara.
Yep.
Big Fred Demara.
Old Freddy boy.
Large man. He was 6 foot, 350 pounds, and yet he took up a career in being an imposter.
Big man, little rascal.
Yeah, you would think that this guy would stand out like a sore thumb. He would not be very good at impersonating other people, but he's great at it. He's like the Babe Ruth of impersonating other people and doing jobs he's not qualified for.
Yeah.
He's an amazing guy. The story, I mean, it's one of we don't have that many facts for sure about Fred Demara, even though they had a book about him.
Yep.
The Great Imposter, followed by a movie, The Great Imposter, in 1960,
I think
starring Tony Curtis.
Any good con man is going to have, like, there's the story of we have like a timeline of things he did and cons he pulled, and then he was lying about everything all the time, so it's kind of hard to track him down.
Yeah, it's like the Catch Me If You Can guy.
Yeah.
And then he was like, I actually made all that up. And then it's like, wait, does that make you a worse con man or a better con man?
Yeah, I'm always moving. The shell game's always going.
You have less skins on the wall, but you convinced the world that you had all those skins. That's a pretty good con.
Yeah. But first, before we start, old Big Fred Demara, I want to do the comments of the week.
Big Freddy.
From last episode.
Yeah, we had some good ones.
This is I thought this was a good example of the duality of man. Mm-hmm. We had a clip about John Harvey Kellogg invented cornflakes as an anti-masturbatory food.
This guy hated jacking
He hated jerking it. And I
know, that's insane. You have to go back to that episode. We explain it all.
So this is a level of religious that I always love, of just the batshit insane variety.
Yeah.
Where Atreyu Huxley commented, he was right. You've always been wrong. Do the math. And don't use your own made-up human version either. Use God's math. The numbers are different for a very good reason. Kind of like a lock, key, and tumbler. If the math don't add up, guess what? You ain't getting in. You don't belong. Your math has officially been debunked. Now, a lot of things are capitalized here.
The thing I'm alarmed at is that highway side billboards are coming to life. All those just signs between here and Oklahoma that are like, "You're going to hell." Yeah. They've become sentient and they're listening to our podcast.
Now that's the first half of his comment.
No.
So then
I don't even know. I don't think I knew there was more.
There's more. Then he goes, "Stop it, you." No.
Whoa.
I don't know if he's like talking to us, the reader, or like if he's having an internal dialogue.
He was doing voice to text, and a dog just started running away with his pork chop.
Stop it! No!
Stop it! You repent.
Yeah. So no,
this guy's telling everybody to repent.
Okay, I think he's talking. So it's no. God's math. Yes. How in the world do you ever think for 1 second you/me? It was/is always us. It's kind of deep. You know?
All right. Yeah, I'm kind of with that.
Yeah, so we're getting back on board with him.
All right.
He was very Terrence Howardy at first. Now he's getting a little more
Terrence Howardy.
Now he's getting a little more Christian. I'm in. And then goes, how can you know?
He was whooping that trick in the beginning.
How can you know? You were just told correctly. Love and hate are two emotional forces. I've just stirred up both within you at the same time. May the best one win. Now is he like being too cocky about his writing?
I think
being
so.
Like, we all have love and hate within us. And you have both stirring now, you fool.
You have two wolves within you. And they're both mad at the comment I left.
You have two wolves within you. One of them is gay. The other is gay.
Also gay.
You were gay.
They're making out.
And now the duality of man is, after that diatribe of crazy stuff, the next comment from, Wolf. L1 Wolf 14 AV says, dude had some cake one day and jizzed his pants. LOL.
He did. It's the meme of the sad kid and the happy kid on the bus. It's like the religious diatribe, and then like, he busted his nut on some cake.
So those were my two favorite comments.
I love them. I'm a big fan of both, honestly.
Both of them. I think we got more airtime out of the crazy Christian guy, but He probably did
thanks for listening.
He probably did have a sweet treat one day and busted a nut.
Also, what is God's math? Is that like trigonometry?
We got to ask this guy. I'll follow up with him.
Ask a theologian.
We'll see if he's into it. But those are the top comments.
By God's math, does he mean like the answer to all the questions is love? Because if so, that doesn't sound like a real branch of math at all.
It's 42. I say I read a book, but I just watched the movie.
And I did, by the way, just watch the movie. A lot of my research was watching The Imposter, was starring Tony Curtis from 1960. A fun movie.
I know it was actually a comedy based off of our guy, Demara.
Yeah, and it had Tony Curtis's handsome ass. He's charming as hell in it, and that like really threw me when I learned that the real Fred Demara was a hefty man,
big fat man.
Because in the movie he's like a very handsome and uses it to his advantage kind of con man. I don't think the real Fred Demara. I don't think he was getting by on a lot
of people.
I don't think he was doing a lot of seducing. I think he was more clever in other ways.
Yeah.
But
so I think he started young, where he wasn't a very well-educated man. He left high school at 16.
Yeah, his family had hit hard times during the Depression. They had I think it had an uncle who owned a bunch of movie theaters, but they had to sell them and sell the family house, and they moved to like a shitty neighborhood. And so he started running away from home real young.
Yeah.
One of the first places he goes is a Trappist monastery.
Yeah, he goes to be his first con. He lied about his age to become a monk.
Which you're hustling backwards.
You really
lie about your age to do a lot of stuff, but to get into a Trappist monastery, that's a little wild,
The guy loved it.
I can see lying about your age to get into the lodge or baby doll,
Yeah. Buy some cigarettes.
But a Trappist monastery.
He was 16, but he loved a Belgian wheat beer.
Yeah, fair.
He did.
And the robes. And robes are flattering. Can't dismiss that.
You can't dismiss it. At 18, he gets kicked out because they were like, hey, you seem like a good dude. We're glad you're trying, but you just don't have the right temperament for this.
Yeah.
And then
no shame in it.
He proceeds to prove them all wrong and steals a car and money from the monks and joins the U.S. Army.
That's right.
Which, again, this guy's hustling in weird directions.
Yeah, he is.
He keeps doing seemingly responsible things on paper, but getting there in bad ways.
Right.
Which I respect. I respect the hell out of it in a weird way.
Exactly. It's a real theme with him. He's lying to get into places like you would never want to get in. Like he's like, I want to join the Navy and be a doctor. Like, it's all crazy. Like, why would you want to do that? It doesn't sound fun. You're not conning your way into, being the host of Love Island or something.
No, something honorable.
Something great, and fun.
But so in 1941, he joins the Army. This is like the lead up to World War II. And he hated it. He hated the Army.
Yeah, he wasn't advancing fast enough.
And the greatest insult to the military branch is he hates the Army. So he steals a friend's identity, and then he joins the Navy.
That's right. He saw Mad Men on DVD, and he was like, fuck it, I'm pulling a Draper.
Oh, yeah.
And except he didn't wait for his friend to be blown up. His name was Anthony Agnolia. He just stole his name and took off first to another Trappist monastery. And then he went to a Trappist monastery for a brief time between the Army and Navy, then went home. His dad told him, hey, man, you need to turn yourself in to the military police for desertion, and he agreed, but later it turned out he was being sarcastic. He was going, I'll turn myself right in to the authorities. And so, he joined the Navy instead. He's stolen it.
Now he's Anthony something. He's in the Navy. And they let him into like the medical training program, but not med school. He was like going to be in, whatever they called EMTs back then. And so this cracked me up because he wasn't educated, and he tried to get into med school through the Navy, and they were like, let's see like your transcripts. And he was like, I don't have those. And so they didn't let him. And then he forged all his transcripts and things and then reapplied, and they let him in. Or he didn't reapply, but he forged all his transcripts and things and then brings them back to them. And it's just like, oh, college. I thought you said collage. I didn't have any collages.
I went to the best college. I'm so sorry. That was on me.
Total mix-up.
Here I am, a Yale graduate with the papers to back it up, not even understanding when you said college that you did not mean a collage. And I made a collage, too.
Just in case. Just in case I was wrong.
It's of One Direction. All the guys in One Direction.
Yeah, back when they were together.
Before Zayn left.
Yeah.
This was back in World War II, so One Direction was still together. Again, in the Navy, it was another time that he was not advancing fast enough. He was just like, why can't I just be the fucking head of surgery?
Yeah.
Like, that was his thing. He didn't understand, like, no, you have to demonstrate through, like, he truly didn't. He was like, no, I should just be able to have that job.
What got him in trouble in the Navy the first time is he just skipped the med school thing and applied for an officer's commission now that he was an educated man.
Yeah.
And during that application process, they found that his documents were fake.
Sure.
And so he did the honorable thing. Finally, he's run all these cons. So he faked his death and ran away.
Faked his death. A very funny scene in the movie. Also in the movie, they're showing him do all this forgery. And it occurred to me, God, they didn't know how good they had it with forgery back then. He had one of those rubber stamps that like the government would use. That's like it's like something about like urgent matter or something. It's very official, and the Army would always use it. He had one of those things, and I remember seeing it in the movie and be like, damn, that's like a fucking superpower in 1942.
Just finding a stamp.
People are like, oh my God, this is important.
It's an urgent matter.
He was damn good at it. And he faked his death. That's super fun. I think he faked a drowning and left. Did he leave a suicide note? I think he might have. But anyway, maybe that was just in the movie.
He got caught for the fake documents, not the stealing the guy's identity thing.
Yeah.
So then do they discover, or they just like find this Anthony guy?
Anthony Agnolia is just really chill. He was like, I figured you needed my identity.
Yeah. But so then he steals the identity of a Dr. Robert Lytton French.
Dr. Robert Lytton French, a religion-based psychologist.
Yeah.
All right.
And so
that's a job.
He uses his credentials and he becomes a college professor.
Well, before that, he becomes a Benedictine monk. He's been trying to be a Trappist monk, and now he's a Benedictine monk. He wants to convert to Catholicism, and they're like, no, that's bullshit. We don't think you want to.
You can't do that.
We don't think you want to at all.
But he essentially, once he keeps going back to the monk thing, through line throughout his whole con man career, which is just let the guy be a monk at this point. Like, how much crime does a man have to commit before you let him be a monk?
Just let him be a monk. Just give him the robe.
He'll be out of everyone's hair.
They let a dog be a monk one time, a stray dog. I saw it on the internet, and it is the cutest thing that's ever happened.
Yeah. What's that? The dodo wouldn't lie to me.
Yeah, exactly. The dodo would never. It wouldn't lie to any of us. It cares about us too much.
But essentially, he rode out the war being a college professor. So from 1942 to 1945, he was just a college professor.
Psychology professor at Gannon College in Erie, Pennsylvania. Yeah. He taught general psychology, industrial psychology, and abnormal psychology, and was actually the dean of the School of Philosophy there. It is still a college, impressively, for a place that had a known con man as the head of one of their departments for a while.
That is one of those things, too, of, like, they say those that can't do teach, which is, shitty and has some truth to it, but isn't 100% fact. But, like, how hard is the job when he can just be winging it?
Yeah. How hard is any job, I think, is the story of this guy's life.
Or, like, finding people that are qualified for things, and they're like, he just lied about all his credentials, had no experience, and for all intents and purposes, nailed it.
Yeah, it's all about confidence.
Yeah.
Whether you're, asking a girl out on a date or doing trauma surgery, you're not qualified to do. Confidence.
Yeah, but he gets caught at the end of this and so he doesn't get in trouble for the identity theft and stuff. He gets caught and jailed for desertion of leaving his post in the military.
Yeah, and
he does 18 months in jail. And that's his first time getting like an official stamp on his record of wrongdoing, Mm-hmm. And Yeah, he gets out.
He was innocent, I think.
Gets out, changes his ways. But this is actually the craziest. This is the funniest part of the story in my mind is he befriends a doctor, which I love not having Google or social media when he's just like, hey, don't mind me. I'm just a nice guy.
Yeah.
And the guy's name, how do you say his name? Sir?
I think Sear.
Dr. Joseph Sear, who is a Canadian doctor. And he befriended him. And then he had said he had like an inside track for the immigration stuff. And so this doctor sent him all his immigration paperwork, which he promptly made copies of, and then assumed his identity and moved to Canada. So this Canadian doctor moves to the U.S. to open a practice, and then our guy just gently goes above the border and is like, I'm a doctor again.
I'm a doctor now.
Yep.
I'm back, guys.
He's been to med school 3 times now.
I weigh 200 more pounds than I used to, but I'm doing good. It's really funny. He met Joseph Sear at a Roman Catholic order he was at in Maine because he's always doing some kind of shit like that. And I like to think that as soon as he saw Joseph Sear, he was like, can't wait to steal that guy's identity.
I'm gonna be in that skin.
He like they know, like they say women know like immediately if they could see themselves upon meeting a man with that man. That's how Joseph.
That's how he meets people. He's just like, ooh, doctor, you say?
I'm like, come on, that guy. I'm gonna steal his identity.
I'm going to be that man soon.
So but that he steals Dr. Joseph Sear's identity, and that leads to his most famous adventure of all during the Korean War.
He was great at understanding, like, he always used doctors and things because they have a higher standing. You have like a position of authority. And so this is when the Korean War is about to kick off. And he goes to the Navy in Canada and goes, I would like to be a doctor in the Navy. And now military stuff, it's always hard to get doctors. Normally they have to, like, they pay them to send them to med school and then they owe a commitment to the military afterward. And it's a good way to, if you want the government to pay for your med school and stuff. And so they need doctors bad. And so, but then he like leverages it against him and goes, hey, if y'all don't like fast track me and just let me in fast, I'm just going to go to the Army and be a doctor there. And so he gets his whole like packet fast tracked. And they're like, please, sir, please don't go anywhere else.
He does the Dwight Schrute thing in the office when he's selling his car to Andy and he's like trying to get him to say yes to a terrible price. And he's like, 5, 4, 3, 2, do it. That was Joseph Demara joining the...
Yeah, here's my packet. Don't look too deep into it. 5, 4, 3.
AKA Joseph Sear.
Yeah.
Being like, do it now or I'm out. And they did it. They were like, we got to pull the trigger on this guy. I mean, what is he, an imposter? I bet not. Not with that girth. You know, that's the girth of an honest man.
Yeah, an honest, hungry man.
So he boards the HMCS Cayuga.
Before we get on the Cayuga, I wanted to cover he goes to Stadacona Naval Base first.
Ooh, I didn't see this part.
And so this was one of my favorite parts is because he knows he doesn't know a lot. And so what he does is he goes to the other doctors on the naval base and all the medical personnel and says he's putting together a medical booklet to send to lumberjacks in like the frontier of Canada so that they can have a basic knowledge because they have to handle stuff themselves.
Yeah.
Which is essentially, he's like,
hey, write down on how to do this job real fast.
He was like, if you had to explain how to do your job to a dummy, how would you do that?
How would you do that? Please write legibly.
And so they put together this pamphlet for him that he's just like, yes, I will now send this to the lumberjacks, as he's just reading it in the back. He's like, okay, I got it.
I love that. You know, he's this man, he's out of his depth, but he's like, I can catch up. You know? Like,
just keep swimming. Just keep swimming.
I just gotta trick these guys into writing how to do the job down for me.
Yep.
I'll just make up a little thing about lumberjacks.
Yep. And
it'll all be fine.
What's med school if not just a pamphlet for lumberjacks, you know?
Yeah. And he's like, besides, I might not even see any, have to do any kind of crazy surgeries during my stint as the ship's doctor.
Foreshadowing Wiggles glasses. So now he's on the HMCS Cayuga.
Cayuga. It always, every time I say it, makes me think of a cartoon wolf seeing a sexy lady.
Auga.
Auga. And hitting himself in the head with a shoe.
as one is to do.
We've all seen him. Yeah, so he's on the Cayuga.
Yep.
He's doing well. He had to extract the captain of the ship's tooth like right as soon as he got on. That was a funny but a little hard to watch scene in the movie of him tugging on this guy's tooth, and then he goes like catatonic, and so Tony Curtis like puts him to bed and closes his eyes, and he thinks he's dead for like a long time, but then he sees him on deck the next day, and he's like, "Oh, that was the best tooth pulling I ever had," and he's like, "Whew." Yeah, nice. He's really happy.
All right, good.
He did not kill the guy,
but yeah, he was the chief medical officer on this naval destroyer. And here was a thing that cracked me up of one of his skills of why he didn't get called out so often was they had a birth mate, what'd they call him? I forget his position, but like a nurse essentially or a PA or something. The guy below the doctor who like loved him. Like he was a good boss. Everyone thought he was a great boss to have on board because he didn't micromanage anybody.
Yes.
Because he didn't know what he was doing. So he let his subordinates, they were like, man, we've never had like, he just lets me do my job and take care of patients and gives me responsibility and like doesn't get in my way when I'm treating patients.
Hell yeah.
So everyone loved him.
Yeah, that was a big thing with him is that every stop, places where he got outed eventually or not, like a lot of people ultimately didn't care that much because he was cool. He was nice to people.
Yeah.
Which good on you, Fred Demara, you know?
Yeah, proud of you.
So he's on there. They eventually run into some trouble, as a lot of ships active during the Korean War were wont to do. 19 Korean casualties came in onto the ship. Was it 19 or 16? I heard different counts, I feel like.
I forget, but there was a bunch of Korean casualties, and there were like 3 guys that he specifically like did work on. Yeah,
that needed trauma surgery like immediately.
And he just did it.
Yeah. He went to work. He reportedly was running into back rooms and like consulting a textbook during some of the surgeries. Like, which is hilarious.
He has his lumberjack pamphlet with little drawings in it. Just like, okay, what do we do now?
Yeah. All right. I love it. And he removes a bullet from one guy's chest. He just kicks ass, you know?
Yeah.
He does some high level doctoring.
He does. He amputated one of the guy's legs, got the bullet out of the other guy, and he did such a good job and responded so well to the pressure that they gave him an accommodation, which is where he got found out. It's because they took pictures of it and printed it in a newspaper.
He was too damn heroic.
He was too damn heroic for his own good. And the Dr. Sear's mom sees it in the newspaper and goes like, that's not Dr. Joseph Sear.
Yeah.
Like, who's this big fat man?
Yes, there's that part is really funny in the movie too. They use a different name, but the guy's like that guy's like that's not Dr. Mornay. He's like his name is Richard James Hanneman, like some other totally wrong name, which is hilarious. I love the like confident like his name outing the imposter, but you know him by another
one of his other imposter names. Yeah,
hilarious. But yeah, so all the publicity from saving all the people is ultimately his undoing with the Canadian military, but he's able to get off without being punished much because he points out to them it can be really embarrassing for you as a military to admit you let me in and operate
do surgeries on all these people.
And he was like, I think it would be another great scene in the movie, best for all of us if I just took off right now. Which it's apparently kind of what happened.
Yeah.
And in the movie also his lawyer is Dick Van Dyke's neighbor from the Dick Van Dyke Show.
Okay, there you go. Fun fact.
Yeah.
Which it's so he gets away again, no prison time because they were just like, let's just act like this didn't happen.
Like, he's so cool, man. He's like a big party animal. We like him. And it's really embarrassing to tell this story.
He keeps his mouth shut by immediately going to Life magazine and publishing the story of his exploits.
Yep.
Because he's kind of trying to slow down. He's like, how long can you keep this going for? So he's on the cover of Life magazine with this big op-ed, and it's a cool story.
Yeah, he becomes kind of a famous guy. He does the Life magazine story. He did 2 TV appearances in 1959 on You Bet Your Life with Groucho Marx, and then Take a Good Look with Ernie Kovacs.
Yeah.
Outside of being a phony professor, what were some of your other impersonations? Oh, I've been a surgeon lieutenant in the Royal Canadian Navy.
You operated on people?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that rather dangerous?
You might say that.
Mm-hmm. Where did you steal your new credentials? To be a surgeon?
I don't seem to be getting through to you. I acquire these things.
I know, you keep telling me that. I hate to bring the word steal into this conversation. How did you get these credentials? How did you set yourself up as a surgeon on a warship?
Actually, I acquired these credentials, obtained a commission, and was sent to Korea as such.
How long did you last as a Navy doctor?
About a year.
What happened? The first guy came in with chicken pox and you sent him up to the crow's nest, I suppose. Did you operate on anybody?
Oh, yes, Korean nationals, a great number of operations.
Well, for what kind of operations?
Battle medicine sort of things, gunshots, so forth.
Did you have any medical knowledge at all?
The only medical background I had, Groucho, was that which I obtained as a hospital corpsman in the United States Navy.
Well, what did the other doctors think about you? Did they watch you operate?
Well, let me answer it this way. While we were in Halifax at the Royal Canadian Navy's headquarters, I gave seminars in internal medicine to the other doctors.
But the celebrity kind of wanes. Like, he doesn't write a crazy book. I guess they sold the rights to his life for the movie. And so in 1955, he gets itchy again and assumes the identity of Ben W. Jones and becomes a guard at Huntsville Prison. And then he, again...
Shout out Huntsville.
Does great.
Yeah, he's good at everything.
So he's frustratingly successful at all these endeavors until he gets found out. At some point in time, someone's got to be like, you just stick around, man. I don't know. We need a guy.
Yeah. And in the movie, it's a guy that he was in the first prison with. Sees him,
really?
And he's like...
Well, so he actually gets found out in a funny way. Is he ends up being like in charge of the maximum security unit at Huntsville, and they come in with this educational program deal where they give the prisoners magazines.
Yeah.
And one of those magazines is a 4-year-old Life magazine now with his face on the cover. And so the prisoners are like, wait a second, is this you? And he tries no, that's not me. I just look a lot like that guy. It's like, heard this before, you know?
You're like, you have a really specific look, sir.
Yeah. There aren't that many big fat guys at this point in time in American
6 foot,
history.
350 pounds. That's yeah. We would remember you.
Yeah.
You know? That's what we're saying.
But then he does 6 months and he runs away to Maine. Those monks, he hides with them. That's wherever he goes whenever he needs to run. He just goes because he's a monk for 6 months.
He needs to lay low.
Yeah. And
I appreciate that. It makes me think of monasteries in a whole different way.
They're all just criminals on the lam.
Will they be cool if I...
They don't ask questions. You just work hard and keep your head down.
Yeah.
But he ends up doing 6 months in prison when he gets caught. And then supposedly he that's his retirement, is he actually goes back to the church, and then he dies as a counselor at a hospital in California.
Yeah, where he had actually been living there.
Yeah, at the hospital
for a while, since the late 70s. He had worked there first as a visiting chaplain, and then I don't know what capacity it was in the end, but they found out who he was while he was working there, and he was almost dismissed. But the chief of staff, who's apparently a pretty famous guy in the physician world, he was like, no, I love this guy. We're not getting rid of him.
It finally worked. Of him going I swear I'm good.
Yeah, so they let him live at the hospital even after he stopped working there. He was in really poor health. He had both of his legs amputated at this point from diabetes.
Yeah, big fat guy, drinking problem.
Like the joke. Go see Jimmy live. There is a moderately related bit of material.
I think they should make a diabetic Barbie, and it's just like regular Barbie, except it's inflatable, and eventually the feet pop off. There's a long lead up to it, but that's the payoff, you know.
Make the Ken Fred Demara. There you go. We're in business.
We added another wrinkle to the joke.
What little girl would not want to play with a doll of a diabetic woman and a con artist from the 1940s? I think every kid in America will want these
All this Barbie dream house stuff is just setting unattainable standards for them, where it's like, no, you can be a big fat guy and just
just be a ship's doctor. Just find a way on there. Just find a way on there. You know.
Do you have any closing facts, fun facts about this guy?
Oh, here's a fun fact. He died June 7th, 1982.
Yeah. I don't.
I'm kidding. That wasn't a fun fact at all. I just had it written down, and then I was like, it would be funny if I presented this as a fun fact, but then it's just the date he died. He died of heart failure and complications from diabetes. Another fun fact.
Fun facts.
We have a lot of fun facts going on in the... And no, he had two famous connections. The Tony Curtis thing. Tony Curtis said that was his favorite role ever to play was of Fred Demara. And then weirdly, he was really good friends with the actor Steve McQueen. You know Steve McQueen from Bullet and shit? The former, like, one of the coolest guys probably in America's history. He actually delivered Last Rites to Steve McQueen.
Hell yeah.
Which is, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It does crack me up. This whole story is normally con man, imposters, they're trying to steal your money, bang a married lady, skip town. And all of his cons were to do good work.
Yeah.
Like he was joining the military, being a doctor, being a counselor, a monk, a chaplain. He was just like, I got to...
Yeah, he was kind of a Victor Lustig for good.
Yes.
A little bit.
Yeah. I like that. Old Victor Lustig.
You got that could be like a tattoo of like the angel and devil, but you have Victor Lustig. And
just a tattoo no one would understand. You'd have to have labeling on it.
Unless these Barbies take off, then everybody will get it. It made me think, if you could deliver Catholic last rites to one movie star, who would it be?
Oh, geez. Sydney Sweeney.
Oh, that's hot.
I have.
I mean, talk about...
I have bad intentions.
I mean, this is last right, so she's dying, you know, but I still get it.
Well, that's a would you rather I heard the other day.
I would say...
what's an old lady? It was Betty White, but she's passed away now. Who's historically an old lady? Or like
oh, man, that would have been my pick. If I could have snuck that in before the buzzer, that would be... You can't get better as far as delivering last rites than to a Betty White, you know?
Well, I'll just do Betty White.
She's walking straight into heaven.
Here's this would you rather. Would you rather have sex with Betty White 10 minutes before she died or Megan Fox 10 minutes after she died?
That's really hard. Okay, I'm going to say the after... the Megan Fox one, but not for shallow reasons. I'm above that.
Okay.
Because I think if you were having sex with a woman 10 minutes before she was dead, and she was an old woman, you go to your grave thinking you killed that old woman with your with your thrusting.
So you'd rather...
You can't have that on your conscience. Can you imagine?
Necrophilia. Yeah, that's fine.
That's just that mental image is just living in your head forever, and you're like, I killed that old woman.
It could be a confidence booster of just like, that's how I lay it down.
I don't know if I would see it that way, if I'm being honest. I don't know if I would feel that way ultimately.
Well, as any good would you rather, both answers are pretty bad.
It's that, exactly. Yeah. That's what makes a good would you rather. But it just goes to show, the measure of a man, it's not about, how real your accomplishments are. It's more about if celebrities like you or not.
Yes.
And in that case, Fred Demara was a great gentleman.
Yeah.
He was a good man.
Rest in peace, Fred. We
love you, Fred. Yeah.
So I actually have a story of doing a little con mannery myself.
Yeah?
Have I ever told you I was a professor in China?
No.
Okay. So I was a college professor in China, in Harbin, at the Heilongjiang International University.
Had a whole other life.
Yeah. So it was after college. I was working jobs and was just like, I kind of want to I met some people that had taught abroad, and it's like, you're not really making money.
Which broad?
That's such a corny joke, and I love it. Were they allowed in school?
Somebody said studying abroad a few days ago, and I stopped myself from making that joke, and then I couldn't just now.
Yeah, from a distance, or did you meet her?
I've just been primed to throw that in. That's for a minute. Yeah, all right, but sorry, did you derail your story?
But so I was like, I'm gonna, you get like, it's called a TEFL certificate, like teaching English as a foreign language. It's like an online course. Nice. And then I just started applying for stuff.
Do you have to pay for it?
Yeah, it was like a couple $100. But it's not like rigorous by any means. You just have to like put some lesson plans together, and they like walk you through it. And so I was like, all right, I'm ready. And so I apply, and I have like one interview that's like on Zoom, and I didn't lie in it. I was just like, well, I haven't really taught before, but I have the certificate, and I've done a lot of coaching. Here's how I think those skills would translate.
Hell yeah.
And they were like, so you want to be a PE coach? And I was like, well, I was applying for the English position, and literally like before, I don't know if like there's a lag in internet transmission of how long an email takes to travel across the world. But before the Zoom call was over, I had an email in my inbox saying, no, thank you. We're going to go to different. I was like, oh, no. And so then the next interview, I was like, I'm going to fudge a little bit, tell them what they want to hear. And so they're like, tell us about your teaching experience. And I was like, teaching. It's my passion.
It's all I ever do.
It's all I do. I love it. It's my life. It's my life dream to be a teacher. Mm-hmm. And so
I crank it to the movie Lean on Me.
Yeah, it's my favorite.
That's how much I care about education.
And so they were like, oh, you sound great. You got the job. And I was like, amazing. That was easy.
You're like, man, con men really have it figured out. This is just the way to go.
So here's where the con begins, is to get because I was like a legal immigrant to China or whatever. And so you have to prove like experience in your field to get your immigration paperwork. So I had to come up with 3 years teaching experience. So I made up a company called Denton to Dallas on-campus tutoring that me and my buddy Andreas ran for exactly 3 years on the dot.
Hell yeah.
And so that was my teaching experience. It all goes through. I wrote my own recommendation letter and had Andreas sign it. It's just like, nice. This is probably fine.
Oh, yeah.
And
it all worked out.
But then I remember I get over, and this entire time, there wasn't good communication. I thought I was doing English as a second language for probably kids. I didn't have like an age range or anything. And then, so they set me up an apartment. They give me a cab to the school, and you're pulling in, and it's like a big university. And I'm just like, oh, this seems like a big place.
Yeah.
And then that day, I'm already there. I find out that I'm the marketing professor at a college.
Oh my God.
And I have like big classrooms. I had like 400 students.
Holy shit, dude.
And because I have a marketing degree, so they just put it together, and we're just like, yeah, he's the marketing professor now.
Damn.
And so I remember talking to the guy. It was all in English, and he was just like, hey, we're excited to have you. We understand you've been traveling a lot. Like, feel free just to get us your syllabus by the end of the week. And I'm just like, yes, I will have this syllabus for you. Mm-hmm. And it went fine. as Big Fred would say, I did fine at it.
Yeah, those guys learn about marketing.
Yeah, kind of, maybe. They got grades. I was very lenient on grades. I was like, hey, if everyone just gets an A, no one will complain.
Yeah.
And it worked. So
that's right.
There you go.
Just believe in yourself.
It was funny. It was a star university, which they have like rankings of the universities and how like you do on the Gaokao, like their SAT. Yeah. They put you in like the sorting hat from Harry Potter. They're like, you can control the world. You can be a doctor. You may be teacher. And then they're like, factory, go. You're a factory guy now. And so star was like 3 or 4 down the list of like what jobs you could get from that university. So it wasn't like a good school.
Yeah.
Like on paper. And so, like, in the pamphlet of, like, hey, welcome to class. Like, we're excited to have you. And they had a line of, like, listen, we know this wasn't your first choice. This wasn't our first choice either. But we're here, and we need to make the best of it.
Hilarious.
And I was like, what a good... It's like a community college being like, all right, you dummies.
We get it.
We're going to... It's cheap. We're going to figure some shit out, and you're going to move on, all right? Let's get after it now.
Mm-hmm. Let's get to learning.
A little realism, but... That's my con man story.
That's awesome.
Being a professor in China.
That's really cool. I love that story. That's so interesting.
I've never tried to do it on stage because I'm like, you have to kind of know me for it to make sense of why this is silly.
Yeah.
Because then I'm like just bragging about having a job. And it's just like, we don't know. Like, yeah, maybe you were a teacher. I don't know.
Yeah. My biggest con was telling I had just gotten my first freelance writing job. And that night I was still hanging out with everyone. I was living in my college apartments, hanging out with everyone from college. And we were out drinking. I literally got told that I got the job on like a trial basis that day. And that night, I'm out drinking with my friends.
You ever heard of NBC?
I remember. No, wait. This might have been the one before the local NBC. But anyway, we were out drinking, and I see a really beautiful woman, a blonde woman, and a man who to me looks just like Martin Scorsese.
Okay.
And a bunch of other beautiful people around them. But I'm, at this point, beer drunk and just gregarious. I want to talk to everybody in the fucking bar, you know? And I went up to who later turned out to be January Jones from Mad Men. I was like, didn't recognize her, didn't watch the show at the time.
Yeah.
Didn't recognize her from American Pie 3, which I probably should have.
Probably should have.
But so I went up to her and I was like, hey, your friend looks just like Martin Scorsese. And she goes, do you not know who that is? And I was like, oh no, what have I done? And, anyway, it turns out it was the fashion designer, Max Azria, instead. A pretty famous fashion designer. He was in town to be honored at the Dallas Fashion Awards.
Okay.
So I am like, oh my God, I'm a writer. That's...
we should work together.
I was like, I remember blurting it out. I don't remember how it happened, but it ended with I kind of got along with them, and Max Azria ended up inviting me to go to the Dallas Fashion Awards the next night, and I went. Yeah, it was ridiculous. I was very out of place. I was sitting at their table, by the way. It was two tables.
Hilarious story.
Not with Max Azria and January Jones were at this one, and I was with like all their friends and hangers on over at this one. But still, very cool.
I love like being a D3 baseball player, getting like an internship or a trial job to copyright or something.
Yep.
And then being like, oh, I'm a bit of a creative myself.
Yeah, that's right. I feel like I should cover you guys going to the Dallas Fashion Awards.
Did you write anything about it? For my WordPress.
No, I did. I never did. I never wrote anything about it.
How was it? Was it just like a...
It was nice. It was just
at Hilton. You had a meal.
It was at Dallas Market Hall, it was at Dallas Market Hall. They had it like all done up, and they had an open bar, top shelf shit. Ooh. I was still a drinker at the time. I know, like 10 years sober almost, but I was cashing in on that Beefeater gin to make it rhyme. I was drinking. I remember one time. Here's the thing that sticks out when I remember that is I must have looked fashion wise like fucking dog shit.
Yeah,
because I was at my college apartment.
Never not looked like this.
I didn't have, like, my hair was shorter, but I did have short hair at the time, but the beard was the same. And then I didn't have a suit. I was in my college apartment. My friend Tom was from Denver, so he had a suit that was with him at school. So he lent me his suit jacket. Yeah. And it was, I don't get it because Tom isn't even as big as I am, and it was too big on me by a little bit. And then, my collar would kept poking out of the jacket, and at one point, Max Azria came over and fixed my collar. Yeah. And was like that. And I was like, whoa, that's pretty cool. And also, I look out of place, I feel.
I am woefully ignorant on all things fashion. I'm going to look up Max Azria. Like, what's he known for?
My big victory was when I first got there, when January Jones came in, she at least made a good show of acting like she remembered me, and then I pulled off the cheek kiss thing that high society people do.
Oh, nice.
I pulled it off, and then secretly I was like, let's go.
So Scott's well known in the high fashion society and kissed January Jones one time.
They're like, don't let this guy go to your fashion awards. He'll just sit there and hammer gin and tonics.
He'll just get shit-faced.
Don't even write anything down. It was a good time, though.
Yeah, he's like a big famous guy.
Yeah, mine was more kind of like a real fast. I like yours is more like, damn, that's impressive. I love the idea of like walking in front of a giant classroom on the first day, like, who boy.
I literally had that moment.
I knocked
just like,
that interview too out of the park.
I'm too good at interviews.
Yep. Oh boy.
I've got to tone this. I was always good at getting jobs.
Hell yeah.
I was always 50-50 on keeping them.
I feel like that. Yeah. Well, that's cool though. You know?
So that's my
Move
con man
around,
story.
have fun. That's what I say.
You got any comedy stuff coming up? You got any bits you want to run?
No, I don't know what I have coming up. I have another comedy for the internet show.
Nice. That was fun. I want to.
They changed it to Wednesday nights. RBC. Yeah,
nothing ever works on a Monday.
Yeah, it's really hard.
I feel like it's the beginning of everyone's week. You're not gonna like go out and like have a few drinks. You're like, oh, today's the day I'm gonna be productive and get a good night's sleep.
Yeah, I think the thing to do with Mondays is you just start a mic or show and just leave it, no matter how sad it gets, and then everyone understands that that's what it is. And if you have anything at the beginning of the week that you just want to get out of your mouth, go tell it at the sad mic. Don't expect anything.
Go to the sad mic.
Feel how it sounds
I've
out of your
done
mouth.
Before, where you're just like,
I'm thinking specifically of Dyer Street, the former Dyer Street bar. It's
Houston Street.
Oh,
did you ever go to Houston Street?
I think I did.
I remember Shane Torres came in at one time because he's from Fort Worth or something.
Yeah,
because he like really started doing comedy up in Portland, and now he's New York, LA headlining and stuff. But he came in and like did the mic and talked to people, like told people notes and stuff, and it was just like a super nice guy. This was also like 7 years ago, so
that's awesome. Yeah,
it was.
No, he's always been super nice.
I have a funny story from Houston Street. There was a homeless man that lived. It was like downtown Fort Worth. There was a homeless guy that knew that he was allowed. He wouldn't get kicked out if he put his name on the list. And so he'd come in, put his name at the bottom of the list to be the last one to go up. And then he'd go in the back and sleep.
I like this move.
And then he told the same joke every time. Is he'd go knock knock.
Who's there?
9/11.
9/11. Who?
I thought you said you'd never forget. And then he'd wave and walk off because the mic backed into the door, and he just put the mic back in the stand and would just walk out into the night.
I love his style.
He's almost like a mythical creature now. Of just like, was he really there?
Is he real?
Did we all make that up?
Times?
And this was like a dive bar where the only two pictures they had on the wall were a 9/11 memorial and Nolan Ryan punching Ventura.
Very
like, that's the vibe we're putting out. But
hell yeah, I can appreciate that.
Let's see. Dead air. We cut things out now. I got some upcoming shows where I'm doing on September 1st, Fort Brewery, the Brouhaha series that Paxton's running now. Nice. Co-headlining that with Des O'Neill, so that'll be a fun show. It's got a great lineup.
Hell yeah.
And then I'm headlining a thing in November, but I don't have a lot of shows because this will come out on a Monday, having a baby in 2 days, which means maybe any of the days leading up to that.
Yeah.
Because you don't know. She's ready to pop.
You don't know.
Yeah.
Exciting times.
Very exciting. Got all the stuff. Nursery's all ready. We're ready to rock.
Got the carriage over there, or a pram.
All the hard stuff. All the hard stuff's done. Now Taylor just has to deliver it.
Yeah.
She loves when I make that joke to people. I go, we got all the hard stuff out of the way. We're just ready. We're waiting now.
That's a great joke.
Oh, the Olympics is on. You've been watching anything?
Yes, my favorite way to consume the Olympics is just to turn it on and have it kind of background. Yes. If anything interesting goes on, I'll pay attention.
If the TV gets louder for some reason.
Yeah. And then there are some things like I watched a little basketball this morning, a little Canada-France. That was fun.
I don't give a shit about basketball. The Olympics was cool. Simone Biles is awesome. The men getting the medal for the first time in forever, and
cool gymnastics.
Some good memes. The big dick French guy.
Yeah,
you seen him?
The French pole vaulter, whose dreams were crushed by his own massive hog.
Which what a good meme. Like, you could be Hawk Tua, which she's leveraged this into like maybe a career. Let's fast forward 5 years and see what she's up to.
Yeah,
But, like,
I
that's
already
bad.
saw her getting brought out on a concert, and that was like people are kind of like,
Okay, thanks. You seem she seems sweet, but like, what a good reason to get a meme made about you and go viral.
Yeah.
And what a good time to have humble pie about it. Mm-hmm. It'll just be, oh shucks, that big old thing. Like,
Yeah.
don't worry about that.
Yeah, imagine winning the gold this year. It's like winning the home run derby the year Josh Hamilton hit like 50 bombs in the first round and then lost the whole thing. And people were like, we don't give a shit about you, Justin Morneau.
Yeah.
That's like this one. They're like, what even is pole vaulting? We don't care. We like this guy.
The guy with the big dick. We love that guy.
Giant hog, it flopped. It flopped on the way down. We loved it. It was funny. We've
funny.
added sound effects to it. We're
Just
sharing it with our coworkers
The
and
door
loved ones.
stopper just boing.
That's the real gold medal.
Yeah.
If you ask me.
He did it.
Everyone learning about your gigantic ding dong.
Yeah, that's probably
I realize I've been saying hog a lot, so
Yeah.
I was like, I need to mix in other words for
I think we're a hog camp.
Drangus. Shout out Steve Brule.
Drangus.
Your Dringus. Yeah. Hey, here's another idea. I had another premise. Everybody thinks being an alcoholic is like the movie Flight or like the movie Leaving Las Vegas, but actually it's a lot like the movie The Sandlot. You're always getting hard to explain black eyes and vomiting at carnivals and hallucinating dead baseball players, and then having to run away from dogs that the dead baseball players encouraged you to antagonize. And you're like, it's a bad idea, but you're just like, all right, Babe Ruth, I will buy those PF flyers.
Okay, I'm on board with that one.
And then my last thing was an observation. It is wild, not to sound like an old prude, but it's kind of crazy just objectively, the rise of thongs as standard bikini wear.
Missed it.
On all
Totally missed it.
On all the dating shows, they all just wear thongs all the time.
I thought Scott was going to have a general societal remark, but it always circles back to Love Island.
No, but just if women are in bikinis on TV now, it's mostly a thong, right?
Yeah.
It's like that's just the way the fashion has gone, and I'm a big fan. I like
As
it.
we all are.
Big fan of butt cheeks. Everybody knows that about me.
Shout
Always
out
have
Olympics
been.
again is the track cameraman.
I haven't seen this part.
They understood the assignment for
Yeah.
every the women finish a race and there's just like an underneath getting the cheek crease, just circling cameras. We're like, okay, guys.
This man is an artist.
This man received instructions from the deep state, and he's taking the shot.
Yeah.
But okay,
He
sorry.
is. No, you're good. My point was, when I was a kid, if I wanted to see a woman in a thong, I had to watch an Argentinian sketch comedy show called Rompeportones on Channel 68, Mundos.
There will be a romper portones video happening right now.
Si hay algo que maneja muy bien el comisario es el arte de persuasión.
¡Che! ¿Qué pasa, viejo? ¿Puede ser que uno no pueda pagar su deuda con la sociedad sin que le esté rompiendo la guinda, viejo?
Acá, Racetti, su señoría quiere verlo.
There's only you in my life, the only thing that's right. My first love.
I became fluent in Spanish in 6 weeks. No, I didn't really, but just the parts of Spanish that are like what old sketch comedy characters, old men and comedy sketches would say when every sketch on Rompeportones was about a woman getting naked. Usually, a lot of times being tricked into getting naked or getting tricked into walking up a little step ladder, and then an old man would look up their skirt. This was a lot of the humor. So most of the Spanish I know is just in response, like that kind of Spanish, like "Ay, Dios mío," stuff like that.
Very specific scenario to be in.
But "Sácate las chichis," stuff like that.
I love it. SNL's been writing all these sketches of different characters and concepts, and they didn't know they could have just picked one good one.
There's a shortcut. There's a real easy shortcut to all this.
Rompeportones has figured out.
Rompeportones on Mundos.
We got a winner.
I remember those ads.
Yeah,
so clearly.
That's hilarious. I can't wait to look up a video of that.
Yeah.
But
hot Latino women and thongs, which back then fucking meant something.
yes, we didn't have Instagram. You had to wait for a Girls Gone Wild commercial or for BET Uncut to come on.
That's right. Oh, that was another big one. Yeah, BET Uncut too. Yeah.
10 p.m. son. Mom's in bed.
Huge.
Big Jim's taking over the living room for a minute, everybody. Put my slippery when wet sign up.
Your boy is spreading out.
Well, all right. So that's going to cover it for this week's Oddball History.
Freddie Demara.
We
love you, Fred Demara.
We're some con men ourselves.
That's right.
See you next time. I'll be a dad.
Yeah, and remember, if you're smoking a cigarette around Dallas, blow that smoke in the direction of the sun. Let's cool it down a little. Not sure about the science behind that, but
I'm sure of it. Do it.
All right.